Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Midcap Radar. I'm Sumera Abdi and with me is my colleague Reema Tendulkar. Hi, Reema. Good afternoon. And since we saw that earlier in the morning, the market coming off, since then there hasn't been much move. So since noon, actually, we're just trading in a 10-point range on the Nifty. And for now, just holding up with a gain of about a quarter-odd%. A lot of it actually being supported by a big move in Reliance. So if you look at the contribution chart, you'll see that that's the biggest contributor on the upside. And on the downside, of course, a clutch of stocks, primarily L&T, Maruti, all of them seeing a bit of weakness. The mid-cap index has seen underperformance through the day today, and that continues with a 0.25% downtick at the moment.
And the focus then can be shifted to the currency then. 68.5 against the dollar rupee. If you look at the average in the October to December quarter, was a level closer to 71. And now we're talking about 68.5 against the dollar. It's boosted by strong dollar inflows. We've seen inflows into the equity markets come close to that $4 billion since the start of the year, as well as broad weakness in the US currency in the last week has also aided sentiment. The dollar, of course, had weakened on the back of the macro concerns largely. So keep your eye to the currency, the highest level that we've seen in the last 8 months. Let's get in the early rates coming in from the European markets. In the greens, up about 0.25% on the FTSE, while the CAC is open absolutely flat. We'll wait for those rates to settle. Let's run you through all the top headlines. Markets come off. The early highs weighed down by weakness in L&T, Maruti and HDFC. Reliance Industries bats for the bulls. The mid-cap index underperforms. The rupee surges to an 8-month high supported by foreign inflows and lower trade deficit in February.
The battle for Minetree heats up as sources suggest that L&T board will consider a hostile takeover today, even as Minetree promoters look to thwart a takeover by considering a buyback on Wednesday. Minetree co-founder Ashok Soota tells CNBC-TV18 that he sees it as a win-win situation for stakeholders and investors.
Maruti buckles on reports of a production cut in March. The auto major is expected to cut production by nearly 27% to its lowest level since March 2015.
Jet Airways suspends operations to and from Etihad's base of Abu Dhabi from today. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that Etihad is unwilling to infuse even interim cash till differences over the terms of MOU are resolved.
And India's first and Asia's largest REIT by size is launched by Blackstone-backed Embassy Office Parks today. The IPO to remain open for 3 days. Analysts tell CNBC-TV18 that the yields could range between 7 to 8%.
All right, those are our top stories. With that, let's invite our technical expert, Sandeep Wagle of PowerMyWealth.com, who joins in now. Hi, Sandeep. Good afternoon. Over the last 1.5 hours, the markets have been tightly ranged now. What are you expecting, and what's your call on the index for the last 1.5 to 2 hours?
Afternoon, Sumera. I have been saying that 11,400 will act as a support. I think 12:30 show I said that, and I maintain that any move towards that should be bought into. Having said that, I think the Nifty and the Bank Nifty may move sideways and more stock-specific moves, individual stock-specific moves may follow, definitely with a positive bias. I have 2 buy calls. The first one is a buy in Oberoi Realty. The space looks good and Oberoi Realty has given a clear breakout. I expect over the next few days a good move. Buy it with a stop loss of 490, target of 540. The second call is a buy in a PVR, stop loss of 1683, target 1773.
Sandeep, any other real estate companies look good? You've got Prestige Estates, which has rallied 16%. It's crossed its 200-day moving average. Even the other real estate companies are quite active in trade. Indiabulls Real Estate, for instance, is up close to about 2.5%. Any thoughts on the other stocks in the sector?
We have been bullish on DLF over the past few days, in fact over the past couple of weeks. Today it is showing a little bit of a consolidative move, but yes, you are right, Prestige is definitely looking good. But I would at this point in time go with the Oberoi, which is given a breakout and on the verge of a big move which can follow.
All right, thanks very much for joining in. Let's also get in some more market opinion, this time on the fundamental side. We caught up with Atul Suri of Marathon Trends earlier this morning, and he says that the market is in the middle of a massive global bull run. He adds that the Nifty may touch 12,000, led by the financial stocks.
we are experiencing a global bull market and India is doing a very big catch-up. A lot of domestic people are very obsessed with elections and what is the BJP number, will Modi be, not be, etc., etc. But I think that is really the minor story. If someone came out and told you that we would have a border problem and we would have some sort of, action happening the way it did, and you will start seeing record FII flows, you will see the market rally, no one would believe you. But the market has a way of surprising. And I think the big story here is a big global catch-up rally that's happening in India. I feel that the Dow is very interestingly poised at just sub 26,000. If the Dow takes out this 26,000 level, it corrected a wee bit, but if it takes it out and does a credible breakout, I feel the Dow is going to a new lifetime high. Yes, we will see volatility due to elections. There can be multiple outcomes. It's not a binary option. There can be 4 or 5 outcomes if you really look at it, if you read politics. But the fact is that irrespective of that, the bigger thing, the bigger trend is what's happening to global markets. You will have short-term volatility, you will go through ups and downs, but I think that the bigger trend is global, or the scenario that I've been talking about. Yes. The fear was that US Fed would continue tightening. And post those statements, the rally that you saw in the US was ferocious. And along with that, very often US may rally, but EMs don't rally, like we saw in last year. But the beauty is that I feel the EM market has made a higher bottom, higher top. It's made a reversal. Essentially, you're not going to find me looking at bottoms and things like that. I will be where the trends are. And clearly the trends is in financials. Bank Nifty is a lead indicator for all my studies that I do for Indian markets. Bank Nifty, whenever it leads and breaks out to new levels, the Nifty follows soon. And what you're seeing is not just a breakout of Bank Nifty to lifetime highs, you're seeing a ferocious breakout. The quality of breakout is very good. The breadth is very good. So that's why it keeps me, why I feel the Nifty will get into lifetime highs and things like that. So I feel that financials, by virtue of its weightage, is something you just cannot ignore. We will get to lifetime highs and we will push towards 12,000.
Right, in a couple of names, we've been highlighting the up move, the strong up move in real estate names. So Prestige Estates has gained close to about 16.5%. You've got strength in Oberoi Realty, India Bulls Real Estate. Brigade Enterprises has moved up close to about 6.5%. Just Style has had a very strong session on very good volumes. It's up 5.5%. This month itself, it's seen a rally of close to about 25% And Bombay Dye too comes up on the volume charts. Cafe Coffee Day, of course, very excited because we've got a potential Minetree. There is a battle for Minetree. The L&T board will be meeting today where they will consider the acquisition of Minetree, a promoter stake, and possible some more minority shareholders may chip in, which could give the company ammunition to go ahead for an open offer. But on the other hand, the promoters of Minetree are also putting up a fight. They've written a letter to the L&T board, and they're going to do a possible buyback to fight, the offset, the L&T takeover. Mugdha Warrior is here with the details.
Yes, L&T is set to announce its acquisition of VG Siddhartha's stake in Minetree following a board meeting today, and L&T will acquire the entire 20.4% stake that VG Siddhartha and his CCD entities hold in Minetree at rupees 981 per share. And we also understand that some other minority stakeholders will also sell about 3 to 4% to L&T. And as we reported last week, L&T will also go for an open offer to take its entire stake to more than 51% in Minetree. Now, there has been, a lot of resistance from the promoters of Minetree, and we understand that K.K. Natarajan and Rostov Ravanan have written a very scathing letter to the L&T board over the weekend, in which they have said that, several employees, clients, and even investors have raised concern that they do not want to be associated with an organization that is going to be very culturally different from Minetree. And in the letter, they've said that, post several discussions with L&T in January and February, they had asked L&T to not pursue Minetree as a target, citing that the deal will be value destructive. Now, this comes just 2 days before Minetree itself is set to have a board meeting in which it will announce a share buyback, which is, being seen as another way to resist the L&T takeover. But as we reported, L&T is set to announce the acquisition of the Minetree stake today.
Mugdha, thanks very much for that. Meanwhile, there's some more news flow coming through on Rel Comm. We understand that the company has decided against challenging the NCLAT order in the Apex Court, and they will not be seeking the release of IT refunds to pay Ericsson. So how is this going to play out? Remember, the deadline is tomorrow as well. Ashmit Kumar, our correspondent, joins in. Hi Ashmit, can you fill us in on what you're hearing from your sources in Rel Comm and how this is going to shape up now?
Well, quite an unexpected move. Just on Friday evening, remember, is when the NCLAT order had come out, whereby the NCLAT had clarified that they are not in a position to and they will not be issuing directions to the SBI to release that income tax refund amount of 260 crore rupees. Subsequent to that, it was expected, it was anticipated that perhaps the RCOM will take the route of perhaps pursuing a legal challenge before the Apex Court, because that's essentially what the NCLAT order provided, that the Apex Court would be the correct forum to move this petition in. However, after speaking to sources, what we've learned is that Reliance Communications has decided against any such legal challenge. What sources tell us is that they will be accepting the NCLAT order and will not be seeking court directions for release of the 260 crore rupees of income tax refund. Instead, what they will be doing is pursuing other sources of raising funds to meet that payment target of 550 crore rupees, 571 crore rupees. Actually, to be specific, they will be looking at other sources to realize that fund, and that they're quite confident of achieving that deadline of March 19. Now, just to give our viewers some perspective, on February 20th is when the Apex Court had Anil Ambani to be guilty of contempt of court, and subsequently had directed our communications to pay up an amount of 571 crore rupees. Now, of that 571, 118 has been paid, which means a balance of 453 crores is still remaining. Now, RCOM had hoped to realize 260 crores of the income tax refund, and in part had hoped to use that for making an in-part payment of the balance 453. That clearly has not happened. So what is incumbent now on RCOM is to pay up that amount of 453 crore rupees, and to do so by no later than tomorrow. Tomorrow is when the deadline expires. And keep in mind, it's crucial, because as per the Apex Court order of February 20th, if that payment deadline of meeting that 571 crore rupee payment to Ericsson is not met, it would result in a 3-month jail term for Anil Ambani. But as of right now, our sources have assured that, number one, they will be looking at other sources, and number two, they're confident of meeting the deadline of March 19th, which is just around the corner. That's tomorrow. Back to you.
Thank you, Ashmit, for that. We need to get back to the Minetree story. That's top of mind. That's the big story we're tracking. Earlier today, we got chatting with the co-founder of Minetree, a former chairman, Ashok Soota. He was being quizzed about a possibility of a hostile takeover by the board of L&T that, is under consideration right now, and what it means for minority shareholders.
I have empathy here, both with Siddhartha, who's selling his shares, as well as with the founders who are saying, let's see if we can retain control. Siddhartha has been a white knight for 9 years and an investor for 20 years, so logical for him to exit. Likewise, I think a great thing, if I was in the founder's place, I would also make an attempt to see if we could retain control. Where I see the situation today, and obviously there have been some developments over the weekend and so on, is that L&T does seem poised to make buy out Siddharth's shares, going by what the market says, and then it will not take them too much effort to reach 26% to launch an open offer. It seems that Minetree is also putting up an effort, because otherwise they would not have made the sort of statements, and it will require quite a lot of doing, but still it will be a wonderful thing to see how they can battle, and can they pull it off. In the end, when you look at this, the whole thing is going to be good for the shareholders, because even if Minetree pulls it off, they're going to have to be able to bring up the prices to at least the levels which L&T has offered. L&T may go further ahead, so I don't think the stakeholders are going to lose, irrespective of whatever the outcomes.
Mr. Soota, the one common thing which has been brought up repeatedly is that in a hostile takeover, and the reason why hostile takeovers have not happened in these kind of businesses is because it's a people business and people tend to leave in case there will be a hostile takeover. I mean, you know all parties concerned extremely well. We've seen the kind of defense that the remaining founders at Minetree are trying to mount. If L&T were to get to 51% with the knowledge that you have, would you think that the founders will stay at Minetree to run the company if the control is with somebody else?
You know, I'll tell you what happens with acquisitions. And irrespective of whether they're hostile or not, founders will typically stay on for a finite period. And I'm sure even that could be worked out. Would there be an impact on a larger number of employees? Again, I would say no. I must put this off because I think a lot of people from the media are trying to reach me on this story for whatever reason today. And so I don't think that, these developments go through a slightly awkward process for a time being. If the founders manage to pull it off, then of course everybody has gained because everybody suddenly jacked up the price and got a certain return in the short term. If they don't, I think the ideal thing would also be for the acquirer to realize that the founders have delivered a great return ever since the IPO and do whatever they can do to be able to keep them, in the picture. Give them appropriate roles for whatever finite period, maybe not integrate the two companies together so that for all practical purposes it just continues, but now owned by somebody else. And I think these are things which they will have to work out. And I'm sure that there's be enough wisdom on both sides to be able to work out those amicable solutions if it goes down that path.
All right, so keep your eye on this Minetree story. It's a developing news, and we'll, of course, keep you updated. And you can also track it on our website, CNBC-TV. The market has given up a lot. In fact, the Sensex has moved into the red as we speak, and the Nifty is holding with just about 6-7 points lead. The mid-cap index, though, is as it was, about 0.25% lower. But let's focus on some news that has come in. Aegis Insurance is likely to have expressed an intention to raise its stake in IDBI Federal Life Insurance. Yash Jain, my colleagues here with the details.
To start with, of course, the management of IDBI Bank has made it very clear that they want to conclude this transaction, which involves diluting 48% stake which the bank holds in the life insurance arm, that is IDBI Federal Life Insurance, by September 30th. Now, as far as the conversations going in sync with the timeline are concerned, what we are given to understand is that the foreign partner, which holds about 26% stake in IDBI Federal Life Insurance right now, is interested and has expressed its intention to dial up to raise that particular stake and buy another 23% to take the total stake to about 49% in IDBI Federal Life Insurance. Now, do remember that Aegis Insurance also has this one particular agreement clause, which is right of first refusal, which means that if it wants to increase its stake, it has to be given the first preference, and that is what being exercised at this point of time. Now, why is this 23% figure very important, which the company intends to raise? Essentially, once Aegis buys 23%, its total holding becomes 49%, which is also the FDI limit. But the catch here is that IDBI Bank wants to dilute its entire 48%, and of course, due to the FDI restrictions, Aegis won't be able to buy that entire 48%. So what we are given to understand is that Aegis at this point of time, of course, is exploring options to buy that 23% stake in IDBI Federal Life. Along with that, it's also talking to a few standalone private banks to enter an agreement, to enter an arrangement where they purchase the balance 25% so that the transaction can go through. As far as the valuations are concerned, what we are given to understand is that IDBI Bank may be able to raise about 1,200 to 1,400 crore by selling its 48% stake, valuing IDBI Federal Life Insurance at around 25 to 3,000 crore rupees. On a separate note, of course, IDBI Bank, we understand, has also started the process when it comes to merging IDBI AMC, the asset management company, into LIC mutual fund. Of course, this will take some time in terms of the talks getting materialized, but an important trigger after LIC bought that major 51% stake in IDBI Bank.
Thank you, Yash, for that. Just keep your eye on IT stocks. Now they've got that overhang of the rupee appreciation. Wipro, Infosys at the low point of the day. The Nifty IT itself is down close to about 1%. With that, it's curtains down on Mid-Cap Radar. Stay tuned. Your stocks when we return.